Good morning, my name is K Tindale, and let's go back to 1980 and also 1982 for The Flipside of Dominick Hide. Now, The Flipside of Dominick Hide was a play for today. Now, that was a BBC One television series which ran between 1970 and 1984. The Flipside of Dominick Hide was aired on the 9th of December 1980 and was a science fiction stroke time travel play. Now, most play for today's weren't sci-fi at all. Most were real life dramas or such as Abigail's Party from 1977, Blue Remembered Hills from 1979, or Nuts in May 1977. All well worth watching. If you get a chance to see any of those, it's very rewarding. Dominick Hide, however, was set in the present-day London of 1980, and also 1982 for the sequel. The story goes, in the year 2130, Dominick, played by Peter Firth, has a job as a time traveller, observing but not interfering with the transport systems of London in 1980. The time before the time barrier was broken is called the Flipside to them. However, Dominick is also on his own back, trying to trace his great-great-grandfather, also called Dominick Hide. Dominick decides to land, which is against the rules, hiding his vehicle, which looks like a little personal flying saucer. He hides it at a fun fair by the sea, Herne Bay. Hiding his vehicle, he wanders down Portobello Road in London and finds the cultural differences quite bizarre. He asks a few people about a Dominick Hide. The people he meets are out there helpful, and they guide him on, and he eventually finds himself in a garment shop run by Jane Winters, who he finds an immediate attraction with, and possibly vice versa. After a while, she has to shut up the shop to go and meet friends in a nearby pub, and she takes Dominick along. Dominick has no money. He doesn't know about money. Beers are bought, everyone is friendly, and they find Dominick amiable and very interesting. Dominick, when asked his name, hurriedly calls himself Gilby because he looks over to the bar and he sees a bottle of Gilby's gin in the optics. So he just takes that name. He returns to 2130, and his superior, Caleb Lyne, suspects something and wants to talk with him. Dominick later tells his wife Ava that he plans to visit the Flipside. Now, of course, he already has many times, but she's quite against this. Nevertheless, he goes again, and this time ends up in a relationship with Jane. They spend a weekend together at Herne Bay. The pursuit of the 1980s Dominick Hide seems to have taken a back seat in favour of spending time with Jane. Anyway, Jane becomes pregnant. Dominick goes back to 2130 and admits it to Caleb, who turns out knew about all along that he was going to do this and allowed it. He sort of turned a blind eye to it, because it turns out that the 2130 Dominick Hide is his own ancestor. Jane's child will be Dominick's great-grandfather. On a previous landing, he nearly caused a serious accident, so he realises that landing is not without significant risk. So he vows not to do it too much from now on. One more trip back to 1980 by Dominick. He lands a week ahead in time, picks up a newspaper from the corner shop, then goes back a week, gives the paper to Jane, and tells her to fill out the football pools using next week's football results in the paper that he's just brought back from next week, to win the pools and thus provide for Jane and his unborn son. After this, he mentions that he cannot return. It's not safe. Jane sees him depart in his flying saucer as it flies upward, and it's at this time that it confirms to her that everything he said about time travel and the future, etc., is true. In 1982, another play for today was commissioned called Another Flip for Dominick, in which he does return. So, 1980, The Flipside of Dominick Hide. If you ever get a chance to see this, and I believe it is on YouTube, I think, both of them, another flip for Dominick Hide and also the original Flipside for Dominick Hide, do watch them. They are really nice. They're very nice plays, and I think you'll feel very good if you watch them. Anyway, if you like these, subscribe and like if you want. If you don't, have a good weekend anyway. My name is K Tindale. Thank you very much. Goodbye.